This revolution is filled with so many ironies, really. First, it is manly to keep your word, right? If you are a man, you keep your word. And now all of the black people in this country are demanding, and even the black people in the whole world are demanding, is that you keep your word. You told us we were free. Well, then show us that we're free. You told us that there is justice, equality for all in this country. Well, then stick to your word and let us see the justice and equality for all. Or else admit to us that you're not a man, you're a bird, you're afraid of us, you're afraid to give us equal stand. You're afraid that if you give us equal ground, that we will match you and we will override you.
Good afternoon, fam. Oh man, we've got a interesting show today because this is the first Thursday tap in for 2023. As I told you, I'm changing the platform up and we're going to have theme days. And because this is the first Thursday of 2023, I was hoping to get this individual on because we've already spoken a bit about what happened at his establishment downtown Ann Arbor. For anybody that's checked me out more than once, you know I'm from Ann Arbor and I ride for my city. Anything that good happens, we want to salute it. Anything that bad happens, people are going to hear about it. And someone actually brought this to me. I saw the post and I saw the situation that had happened and I wasn't quite sure what business it was because it looked familiar to me. And then I asked some questions on the back channel and it was what I thought it was, and it was a business that I had actually frequented back in my youth. And I think I sized out of the bivouac probably in my early 20s. Grew a little bit too large for the size charts there, but that's no disrespect to AJ and his family. It wasn't their fault that I decided to start eating large pizzas, on a daily basis and whatnot. But one of the big things for me is I always want to make sure that everybody understands that when you do good things in the community, then people are going to ride for you. And when something happens to you, then the community needs to uphold you the same way you have stood. And this is a 51-year-old business, and it sits in the center of downtown, right on the center of Michigan's campus. And like I said, I was a former shopper there. A lot of my friends shopped there. A lot of my friends still shop there. And when I heard what happened to AJ and his family, I came on to do what I did. And like I said, hoped that he would come on and talk about it because I have questions. And hopefully there will be people. Oh, it looks like we got a few trolls in here. Hopefully there will be a few people that have questions that we can get answered as well. Or if you know something and you have information, we can pass that on to AJ while he's either on the air or he once we're off, we can go and do in the back channels. But good afternoon, AJ. I appreciate you coming in here today. I know you don't know me from a can of paint, but trust me, I'm an ally. I'm an ally because not knowing this, my family had an opportunity to do business down in the early 90s. You probably heard of a place called DeLong's Barbecue. And Bob Thompson gave me an opportunity in the early 90s to take over his restaurant. And I did so to the best of my capabilities. And, you know, once you're in that atmosphere, you change your business acumen. And truthfully, that was my first business venture. So it really taught me how to not only do business for myself, but to do business in Ann Arbor. And what you and your family have done over the last half century has been remarkable, because I've never heard anybody complain about the Biv. I've never heard of anybody having any problems at the Biv. I actually worked for a somewhat competitor of yours. I worked for Harry's Army Surplus back in the day. So, you know, and we'll talk a little bit about that, because I didn't know at first that your dad started out as a surplus store, but we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But I wanted to just thank you for coming on, and this situation that happened, you know, and I want to bring this up. I think I've got, I've got a backdrop of the store. You guys started out in a smaller part of that building, and it's grown to this. But, you know, just showing people or talking to people about the bivouac, I can do so. But I really want to get right to the meat of what happened and when it happened, because I'm unsure, did this happen prior to the holiday season, or is this something that was most recent? Because I just really seen the post most recently. But good afternoon. I'm sorry. Nice to meet you.
Let me unmute myself.
Oh, yeah, you're unmuted.
Good. All right. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I have heard of your barbecue place, and when are you coming back down? Because we need a good barbecue place downtown.
I've had suggestions, and you know, we might cook with something. The crazy thing is, I've been on this channel the last 9 months. Actually, it'll be 10 months in a few days. I haven't eaten meat, so you know, my world changed when I stopped eating meat. But I've learned that I can still produce food, cook food, and whatnot, but I don't necessarily have to eat it. It was just a life change that I felt like challenging myself with, and I like it. So I'm plant-based now, but I still could cook barbecue, and I still could probably do really well downtown, you know, with the right setup. So, you know, that's something that we could possibly talk about on the back channel. But yeah, I've been to all of them that have done barbecue down there, and I haven't been happy with one barbecue rib in a long time. I'll be honest with you.
Me neither. So, but yeah, so let me tell you kind of what happened and why, you know, you kind of heard of me in the first place. So actually last week, 1 week from today, we had, I think, the biggest theft in bivouac history. You know, we had 3 people. They parked right out front of the store. They walked in, you know, 2 girls and a guy. The girls went over to the women's section and grabbed a bunch of coats. The guy went over to the men's section, grabbed a bunch of coats, about a dozen coats in total, ran out the front door, hopped in their car, and essentially took off with a lot of merchandise. And these aren't cheap coats. I mean, some of these coats were $1,000.
I'm sorry. Did you say 4,000?
No, $1,000.
1,000. I'm sorry. I misheard it. Okay.
1,000.
Okay.
So yeah, it was a pretty big hit. And you know, they actually, so a customer and actually one of my managers who saw it happen ran out after them, and they had taken the license plate off their car, which was a silver Buick Enclave. So we couldn't get any plates. And because, you know, they were right out front on State Street and there was a bunch of cars in the lane, they couldn't immediately pull into the lane because the cars actually all stopped and saw what was going on and wouldn't move. So they could, you know, everyone was kind of trying to work together to block them in.
Right.
So they drove onto the sidewalk and sideswiped the Jimmy John's, the old Jimmy John's building right on the corner there of William.
Wow.
So they have a huge dent, you know, scrape on the right side of their car.
Okay.
So if, you know, that's a hopefully someone sees that car around. But yeah, and then they took off, and that was that. And the police haven't been able to identify them. And, you know, it's really unfortunate. And it's not the first time something like this has happened. And
So you've had issues before?
Yeah. Well, so since the pandemic, about twice a year, we've had this exact same thing happen, where someone come in, grab the coat or two, and run out the front door. I mean, you know, you hear about this happening in the big cities all the time.
Sure.
But it's starting to, it's come to Ann Arbor. People are doing it now. And we had one earlier in December, I think 9th, we had one guy come in and take about 3 coats and run out. So this is the second time this year it's happened. And like I said, it happens about twice a year.
And does it seem like they know what they're looking for?
Yeah. I mean, it's always the brand Canada Goose and the North Face. I mean, we're one of the few stores in Ann Arbor, maybe the only store that carries Canada Goose. And I think they, you know, they look up online what we have, and whether they come in a couple days before and scout out the place or what, but they know exactly where they're going. They know exactly what coats they want to grab. And, you know, talking to the police and detectives, like, they could be driving up, they could be local, they could be Ypsi, they could be Detroit, they could be Toledo. There's a lot of people who've been driving in kind of like theft rings from Toledo. I guess that's a big thing. So you have no idea where they're from, and it's not a very good chance that you catch them.
So the merchandise that they took this last time, there was 3 of them. Now, I guess when I'm looking at the women that are walking in, this looks like they're walking in the store, the one with the pink jacket and the Bulls jacket. They don't have any merchandise in their hands, but then when there's the shot of them running out, so they're walking in the spot. Does anybody ever recognize, like, remember seeing them come in before? Because it obviously, like you said, if they know what they're looking for, they know your inventory, they've either been in the space before or they've looked everything up online. But do they look like they're familiar to the atmosphere, you know, of the store?
You know, we really have no idea. I mean, anytime there's a theft, I do send out, you know, the video and some images to all the staff to see if anyone recognizes them, or to, you know, keep an eye out if they do come back into the store. But so far, from my staff, no one's recognized them. You know, I have no idea if they've been in before. I mean, I could go through hours and hours of security footage just to see if they've been in, but that's like a needle in a haystack, and it's just so time consuming. That's just not realistic for me to do. You know, when I posted on Facebook, I got you know, I'm from Ann Arbor, so I know a lot of people in town, and I did get some people who thought maybe, oh, it looks like this person, or I think they're from this area, you know, but who knows? So,
and I would anticipate that you're going to get, you know, the personal hits. I guess where law enforcement kind of comes in, and do they ask for the footage, like, you know, for say the month before? I can't see them casing your joint out in October and hitting you in December. This has got to be a closer to the time frame of doing it, just based on the fact you may not have that inventory if they're looking for it in October and they don't show up till December. So it would have to be more closer proximity of time frame. Do they request the, you know, 96 hours of footage or whatever, you know, a certain amount of footage prior to the robbery? I mean, how does that work with the police?
No, they don't request any prior footage. I mean, we have thefts all the time. I've never had anyone ask for like prior footage. I think part of that is, you know, a time thing, because right now in Ann Arbor, we have a shortage of detectives for the city. I think they have a backlog of about 200 plus cases that haven't even been assigned a detective yet. I personally have cases, you know, probably a dozen or so cases from over a year ago that still haven't even been investigated. And this is the reality of Ann Arbor right now. And so do I think that a detective is going to sit there and comb through 100 hours of footage to try and catch a theft? No, because who knows when they're even going to get to this case. And that's the problem. And, you know, talking to, one of my friends who's a detective here, you know, I watch a lot of crime shows. So I'm like, okay, like ask, Buick, run, what are all the silver enclaves in town? Like, let's start trying to, it doesn't work like that. Maybe if there was a murder case or something, then they're going to tirelessly spend time investigating it. But other than that, it's hard actually to get information from these car companies. And, I just don't think that the legwork is going to get done that needs to get done on these shoplifting cases, because they're just not as high a priority as assaults and all the other things that just take priority over these shoplifting cases. I mean, I literally have cases from over a year ago where
Right.
we were even able to identify the person, that the officer was able to get their name, where they work, like everything about the person, and they
Right.
still haven't even been assigned a detective or been investigated in. So it's been at least a year where people are, who've stolen from us are out probably stealing from other businesses, and they haven't been contacted by the prosecutor yet.
So you can give the cops a layup right now, and they'll pass it back out to the 3-point line. Basically, they still won't. Okay. So we know we have an issue there with the detectives, but we also still don't have a chief of police. So everything starts at the top. But if you have no head, I mean, I guess I'm looking at things a little bit differently. Does the sheriff's department ever get into this, or is this strictly an Ann Arbor thing, or does the University of Michigan police get involved with this? Because, I mean, you've got 3 police agencies that could possibly be dealing with this, or is it just an Ann Arbor Police Department thing?
So in terms of investigating, it's just an Ann Arbor Police Department thing. Now, when something like this does happen, they do immediately send out a bolo, or like a be on the lookout for, hey, this happened at this business. Here's the car that, if you see it, let us know. But other than that, no other, police force in town is going to investigate this. Like, they're just waiting until the Ann Arbor police detectives get it, and then start making inquiries, and figuring out. I don't even know what they can do at this point, because no license plate, and they're wearing masks, so it's very hard to identify them. It's short of finding the car. I don't know how they're going to do it.
Yeah, the crazy thing with that is the license plate thing really doesn't even play anymore, because most people steal license plates off of cars, and just to get through town, they will put a stolen license plate on a vehicle. They don't care whether it matches the identity of the car or not. That keeps them from getting stopped. But the cops put themselves in this corner, because during COVID, they allowed people to drive around without license plates, because they didn't have appointments to go to Secretary of State. Personally, if you're driving a car like that, I can tell that they've got tinted windows. They may not have a plate on the back. They could have a temp plate in the back window that you still may not see. The only way to truly identify a car, and this is just from a guy that was in the car business, is you walk up to the driver's side windshield and you take a snapshot of the bottom right corner of the window, because that's got the VIN number in it. And if you ever look for the identity of a car, the license plate is really the last thing that you even want to try to do anymore, because most license plates are stolen on cars that are being used to steal $1,000 coats. But nobody's going to think about that type of stuff in the heat of the moment. I can armchair quarterback this thing all day. But my biggest issue was the fact that it happened in broad daylight, right downtown Ann Arbor, and nobody got anything. Whereas you're saying you guys did at least have some type of help, but they ended up driving on the sidewalk. And, thank God they didn't hit anybody. But, I mean, if the vehicle could have just been disabled, I just wonder, I wonder what would have happened if the vehicle could have been disabled somehow. They would have had to either got out and abandoned the vehicle. I mean, I don't think they're going to run down the street with the coats in their hands. But, it was just something that, and I didn't realize that you've been getting hit like this on a regular basis. But you're saying 2 times a year maybe that you get hit like this?
2 times a year where it's just brazen. Well, they'll just come in, grab a bunch of stuff, and run out. But no, we get hit a lot a year.
Okay.
There's a lot of theft that occurs in our store, and some of it we catch and some of it we don't. And no, theft is a problem, in our store in downtown Ann Arbor. I mean, I talk to other business owners like Emden and some of these other businesses, and they're getting hit almost every day. and it's a real problem. And yeah, the VIN thing is smart. I thought about that after this happened, and I've told kind of my managers, hey, try and snap a picture of the VIN, but we're so limited on what we can do, because then you get scared about, well, first of all, I don't want any of my staff to like try and stop someone or get involved, because you don't know if they're carrying guns or
right.
I don't want them getting injured. So you got to just let them go. But if I were to slash their tire or something so they can get away, then am I going to get sued for destruction of property? And you get into these legal things where it's like you can't even do anything. You can't train them. You can't touch them. You can't do anything because you might get sued.
Right.
It's crazy.
And I know that a lot of the stores, especially the big box stores now, have the no chase policy. Have you instituted something like that with your employees? I mean, everybody's going to act on their own accord, and what their capabilities are. But, is that something that you've told your employees, don't actively or aggressively, pursue somebody? But, what happens in that case? If you got 2 or 3 people on the floor, what do you generally have? How many people do you generally have on the floor during the day?
During the day, we'll have maybe 8 or 9 people on the sales floor throughout the store, because we have a pretty big store.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, we have a no chase policy, as in there, I don't want you to chase them. There's no expectation of you to chase them. But, if you do run out and get a license plate number, or you do happen to grab a coat back, like, you're not going to get fired like these big box stores where it's like 0 tolerance. If you even run after them, like, you're fired. Like, that's it. Like, if you do happen to do something, as long as you didn't injure anyone or do anything crazy, then sure. I mean, you can kind of, I leave it up to them, but there's no expectation that anyone approaches anyone they think might have taken something.
Understood. So I guess, with no detectives, no chief of police, Washtenaw County doesn't get involved. It's not a campus thing. As a proprietor, you're really on your own. You're really on your own to do your own, I wouldn't say investigating, but these particular people probably won't come back. But the next thing, I mean, I made a sarcastic remark, but could it come to the point where you start to do lock-in and lockouts? Could it get to that point where, I mean, I just never imagined stores in Ann Arbor having to do something like that, because I hate to venture through stores like that in other territories. I hate to be buzzed in and I hate to be buzzed out. I mean, I get it for diamond, people and expensive jewelry, whatever, expensive furs, but could it ever get to that point where you have to buzz people in and out of your location?
I hope not. I've thought of I mean, of course, something like this happens and you think of everything. You're right. You think of a security guard. You think of buzzing people in and out. You think about putting, cables on all the expensive coats that you got to unlock every time someone wants to try one on. And I just hope that it doesn't come to that. Right now, for the amount of theft that we do have, it would cost more to hire a security guard, because I know someone asked about that. We're not at that point yet, but that's in the back of my mind.
Right.
And I talk to other business owners who are interested in potentially either getting some private business owners together or getting the downtown associations together to try and fund a couple security guards to patrol like the main streets of downtown. So that is something that we've thought about. And I like you said, I hate the idea of having to buzz people in and out of the store. I mean, I don't like it. I feel like that would have a greater negative impact to my business than these several big thefts that happen every year. And, I really hope Ann Arbor doesn't go that way with where it becomes one of these big cities. I mean, you see Chicago and Seattle and San Fran, where it's happening to a really large scale, where some retailers are choosing to close their stores in certain areas because of how bad the theft is.
Right.
If it gets to that point, then we might have to. But I'm going to hold out as long as possible.
Absolutely.
For that. And even with the cables, it's like, okay, so then every time a customer wants to try on a jacket, and we get hundreds of customers in a day, we're going to have to unlock the coats, lock them back up. It's just, I want customers to feel safe, be able to come in, try stuff on, and not have to think that we're on like this like lockdown store that we're watching everyone's every move. And I just don't like that atmosphere.
And it's understandable, but it's 2023, my friend. And I've said from the beginning, COVID did something to people. I know people were stealing, they were robbing, they were killing, they were doing everything before, but this is a different type of vibe now. And what's going on to me, and I'm not putting Ann Arbor above anybody, but I'm hearing more about just senseless stuff happening downtown. And I don't think that Ann Arbor is the only town that's experiencing it. I think it is happening in other places, but you can't really imagine it, because what I was going to ask you, you've worked in the store virtually your whole life. Did your dad experience theft on a regular basis in the 70s, the 80s? I mean, was it always a commonplace to just, I know you're going to have theft. Everybody's going to lose product due to theft. But when did the uptick really start happening right there on the main drag of State Street? Because for years, it was a one-way street. So, well, all of our life, basically. When did they actually switch it to two-way? Because I'm still in the dark on that year. When did they switch it to 2 lanes?
I don't know the year.
But I was driving a cab and it was still 1 lane then. And that was back in 14. I mean, I was still pulling up just to the left. Amir's is right there in the block somewhere.
Yeah.
And I would pull in, and I knew a girl that she worked at that Amir's and the one over next to Rick's. So whichever one she was working at, because she always made my coffee the way I needed it specifically made, I would pull in. I remember I was still pulling in on that side of the street back then. So it's less than 10 years ago that they decided. And I felt like, to me, I felt like that not only took the uniqueness of the area away, but there would be problems, because now you've got that ability. If you are looking to escape, you're going against the grain of what's happened since the beginning of time. I don't ever remember in my lifetime it ever being a two-way street. So I felt like it had always been that way. And now it's a two-way street. And this is really how they got away. If it hadn't been a two-way street, I don't think they could have gotten away as easily.
I don't know. And I honestly don't remember when it was a one-way street or if it was a one-way street. I don't remember that. But I think that the fact that they drove up on the sidewalk and pretty much hit a building, I think they would have figured out a way to get out, whether it was plow through other cars or I mean, they didn't seem like they really had any concern for anyone's safety or for their own car. I mean, they were just get out of there as fast as possible. And I don't know how bad it was back in the 70s and 80s. I mean, in retail, there's always theft, right? But I know that I noticed that since the pandemic, that's when the really brazen robberies have occurred. The ones where they will look you in your eye, they will take a coat right in front of you, they will run out, they will walk out, and they know that the chances that they get caught, that they get prosecuted, even if they do get caught, it's so much less now. And they know that, they got to know, the word has to spread that there's these backlogs of cases that just people, they're not getting prosecuted. I mean, you see the prosecutor now, it seems like he doesn't want to prosecute a lot of things. And so I think it's just setting a dangerous precedent. And yes, everything's really started to get bad when COVID hit. We had lots of theft before. Don't get me wrong, but at least people tried to, be sneaky about it. Now it seems like people don't care.
And, one of the comments, and I've seen this happen a lot, monitoring the number of clients in the store at a time. Now, I think eventually you're going to piss off some of your regulars, because if I'm a regular and I've got to wait till somebody else, who's basically just kicking tires and walking around in the store, I'm going to be pissed off and I don't want to come back. So I understand the ideology there, but has that ever crossed your mind by limiting the number of people in the store?
It has. Hey, it was something we had to do during COVID. When there was only a certain amount of people allowed in the store at a time, we have a clicker and count how many people in and out. And like I said, all these things have crossed my mind. We're just not there yet. I mean, if this is happening every week or every month where they're taking a dozen coats and running out, and it's getting to a point where I don't have any other options, then those are real things that I'll consider doing. But right now, the losses we take, while they are substantial, they're not enough to make me want to, lock people in and out and limit the amount of people in the store. I want to hold off from doing those things as long as possible.
I get it.
Yeah, I really hope it doesn't ever come to that.
I mean, it takes away the whole feel of what that store has been in this community. I love the idea of getting with other proprietors in the block. And, back in my day, we had Officer Blake, and there were a couple other people who walked the beat, who walked downtown. And I don't see cops walking the streets anymore. I don't see, I know it was kind of fashionable for cops to be on bicycles for a while, but that's probably tougher to do in the winter. But I would think that possibly it could be a situation where you could have a security agency, somebody maybe in a roller, just going up and down State, Williams, Division, Liberty, State, something like that. You contract a company out. Or if you can get with a few other businesses, I mean, it will make financial sense to obviously do it because it's going to protect them as well. Now, you guys still have the access to Nichols Arcade, right?
Yeah, we do.
So at one time, wasn't there a substation in Nichols Arcade, a police station?
There's not one in Nichols Arcade. It's right on Maynard, right next to the parking structure.
Okay.
They do still have that. And, I've been a huge proponent of beat cops. I mean, that's my father remembers them. I remember them, when I was younger. They would, you had several officers who would walk around downtown. They would talk to the business owners. So you got to know the officers on the street. You could voice to them your concerns. And it was just a presence. And I think that having a police presence downtown would help a lot. I mean, if there's a police car parked on the street and that person's coming to do something and they see that, they might think twice. If there's cops walking up and down the street or riding around on bicycles, you might think twice about committing a crime. And I really do think that beat cops are important, but I know that in the past, and I think they're trying to get some more in the future, but there hasn't been a budget for it. And that goes back to city council. And, I really want to push for city council to give the police enough of a budget to hire detectives and hire beat cops, have enough where they can be roaming around, the downtown 24/7. And the downtown, it's the lifeblood of Ann Arbor. This is when people decide, hey, am I going to move to Ann Arbor? Am I going to go to school in Ann Arbor? They really look at the downtown, and that really makes, helps them make their decision. And if the downtown is, crime ridden and it's dirty and there's construction everywhere, it's not a very good look for the downtown. So I just think that the downtown just in general needs to be prioritized more.
Well, it absolutely should. I mean, I feel as though city council has been hacked up for years. I'm definitely not a fan and a proponent of Christopher Taylor. They seem to be more into their high-rise, not so affordable housing projects, and into bringing big business into Ann Arbor. And they're forgetting about the people who have basically made Ann Arbor what it is. And when we talk about the downtown shop owners and the people who have survived 50 plus years here, if you're having these issues and they're not tending to your problems, who do they think that's going to continue to send their kids to University of Michigan or want to come live in this town if you're not even taking care of the people that have been in business a half a century? And that's been a problem of mine. It's been a huge issue. I feel like we have too many transients pulling strings in Ann Arbor, whether it be on city council. I've never even looked at Christopher Taylor as a true Ann Arborite because he doesn't think as one. I mean, he was from here, but he went to school somewhere else. So he's never really performed to me as a real Ann Arborite and looked at this as the melting pot that it's always been. But the police presence, and I'm not so pro police, but I am pro police presence because I believe that if you can at least deter the thought, if you make somebody think twice about doing something, and I don't mean walking around with your hand on your service weapon, but you're at least present, that deters that type of thought process, or it at least deters people from coming to this community. Now, I'm not saying, we want to push them to anybody else's community, but that's that other community's responsibility to take care of those situations. And in what your dad did through all these years, however he did it, he was able to maintain for a half a century. So I don't think theft was so bad where he was like, you know what, I'm going to pick up and get out of here after 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. He's been here a half a century. So you took over the business 21, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
So, I came back from college to work at the store full time in 2008 or 9, I believe. And then officially, yeah, I mean, I've been running the place for several years, probably 4 or 5 years now. My dad is still, around and still in the store occasionally, and still a little bit involved in the business, but not much anymore. And yeah, I mean, it's tough downtown Ann Arbor right now. I mean, I'm not the only business owner who's frustrated with a lot of different things. I mean,
sure.
Look how many local businesses are going out of business every month. I mean, I feel like almost every week or every month I'm reading about another business that's closing their doors because they just couldn't make it in downtown Ann Arbor. And it's gonna become all chains eventually, and it's just not. It's starting to lose its touch. I mean, what I remember about Ann Arbor, all the unique little locally owned shops. And, I think there needs to be some major changes to prevent this.
And I mean, that all starts with city government. If they don't change these things, I would definitely say by 2025, 2026, by 2030, we will definitely be big boxed in. The people that have been in business, for 30, 40, 50 years, they'll be putting for sale signs up, and I know that they think that will be good for the visitors of Ann Arbor, but this town does ridiculous business between August and the end of November. And there were people that had to close up when there weren't any football games. We're talking just the football season. And they had to shut their businesses down in the downtown or Ann Arbor area because they survived during the football season for the rest of the year sometimes. Well, when those people stop coming to the downtown shops and the football traffic is basically just hanging out in the Airbnbs, going to the mall that's slowly dying, I'm not sure exactly what's going to really be Ann Arbor. I mean, be downtown Ann Arbor, because they've really screwed up a lot of infrastructure down there. And I had moved out of the county for years, and when I would come back and just see things changed around, I'm like, damn, how they doing this? And who's tolerating it? But then you would see long businesses going out of business. And it was losing its small town flair probably right around the time you were coming out of college and a little bit before. Really, the turn of the century was really things started changing for the worse. And now we're 20 plus years in now, and businesses like yours are being hurt. And what is that? Is there a Target? Is there not a Target? What's the store?
A Target.
There is a Target right down the street from you, right?
Yeah, where Urban Outfitters used to be, right under the State Theater.
A miniature Target.
Yep. So there's Target, CVS, and Walgreens all on that block.
It was unfathomable because the pharmacies were there when I was driving a cab. The Target hadn't got there. Urban Outfitters was still, hell, I think they might have even been showing movies still upstairs. But it was, when they told me that a Target had got there, I was like, who's going to go to Target and you can't park? Where do you park?
Yeah. So I think Target moved in about 2 years ago. And I think, Urban Outfitters, the pandemic is, I think, what did them in. And State Theater still shows movies. They still have theaters upstairs. But Target moved in and, but yeah, that's the big thing is these stores, they move in and it's like, where are people going to park? I mean, I was hoping the Target would maybe have more, home goods, things that, students get for their dorm rooms and stuff. But it seems like it's just like another Walgreens. It doesn't seem like there's anything unique about what's in this Target. And like you said, where do people park when they need to, grab all these items that they're going to be getting? It's tough.
I mean, I don't know. I just felt like when they started to do that, they were basically telling the downtown business owners to kiss their ass, city government. I mean, because that's who's approving all of this stuff. It's not like just because Target, Walgreens, CVS, they all have money that they can come in. You can say no. You can say no. You can say, no, we want to keep this in a more small town atmosphere type situation, but they're welcoming it in. They've turned South U and turned State Street into metropolitan type areas. And the main thing that I've always complained about is like, where the fuck am I going to park? If I want to come downtown, if I come downtown and I'm not pulling in one in front of one of those businesses, I'm literally not going to a parking structure just so I can run into the bank. That's crazy to me. I'd rather circle the block a couple times and find a parking space, but I'm not pulling into the parking structure just so I can run into a store for 90 seconds. It doesn't make any sense at all. Yep. So I can't be the only person complaining about it. Hell, I don't even shop downtown that much, but I know that it's an inconvenience for someone like myself that I want to be downtown for 8 minutes, but it's going to take me 8 minutes to walk out of the parking structure and then get to the store and then go in and then I'm back out. No, I don't think so. It's not one of those things that I want to encounter. And with that being said, what is the average time frame for somebody being in your store, like opening the door to the time they hit the cash register? What's the average time frame for your customers to come in and shop? 7, 8 minutes, 10 minutes?
That's tough to really know, because some people, they come in, they know exactly what they want. They need a hat, a pair of gloves. They come in, they grab what they need, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, they're out. But if someone's coming in and they want to get fitted for a pair of boots, or they want to try on a bunch of different coats and compare, I mean, people can be in here for an hour.
Okay.
So it really depends on what they're looking for. And, one of the things is the positive things about the State Street redesign project that just occurred. I don't know if you've been downtown recently, but State Street, was redesigned and they've added across the street right by the Diag. There's a huge now loading zone, which is supposed to be for not just trucks unloading, but if cars need to pull up and they want, it's a 15-minute loading zone. So if you do want to quickly stop at a business, you can pull in there. And I know with the second half of State Street, when that gets completed next year, they are trying to do more like 15-minute loading zones for, delivery drivers who need to pull in real quick, or for customers who want to pull in and grab curbside pickups, or just know exactly what they want and are only going to be in the store for 5 minutes. So they are trying to add that. But with, other than that, yeah, you pretty much got to go in the structure. There's no other options.
So, and this is me looking out for the client again. When they got rid of the cab business, thanks Barack Obama, but when they got rid of the cab business, thanks Barack Obama, the cab stands. So you got all these places where cabs used to sit. What sits in those spaces now? Did they make those metered parking now?
Some are loading zones, some are metered parking, and some are now flower beds.
Come on, man, for real?
Yep. Yeah.
So, and I've bitched about the traffic for years. I grew up southeast part of town, and when I grew up in the 70s, there were 2 lanes on Platte Road. They decided to pile a whole bunch of people on Platte Road and build housing. Now it's only 1 lane. It's like, you guys went backwards with this. We had more room when there were less people. They're doing the same thing in the downtown area. I mean, flower beds where you need loading zones, where you need parking spaces, flower beds.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who approves this shit?
It's like, it's a trade-off, right? Because you want the street to look nice, so you want something there, but I think they overdid it a little bit.
I want the street to be clean, AJ. I want the street to be clean. I want trash off the street.
Well, but
I don't need to see petunias if I'm going to a fucking store to get a jacket.
Yeah, well, the other thing with the streets being cleaned is what people don't realize is that the city doesn't clean up the downtown streets. they leave that up to the downtown associations. So, I'm president of the State Street Association. I don't know if you
Okay.
know that. But we make our money, the State Street Association, pretty much off of the art fair, and we pay for the snow removal, we pay for cleaning the streets, we pay for a lot of different things. And if it's not a great year, like, we don't have the money to do what we need to do. The association doesn't have the money to keep the streets clean like how we would like to, and keep things planted how in the flower beds that we'd like to, and do all and the snow removal, and do all these things that we would love to do. The city doesn't help with that. And so people say, oh, it's this, the city I feel like somehow needs to contribute towards keeping the downtown clean. Main Street has developed a biz, which, the property owners pay a little bit more in taxes, and it goes towards a fund that keeps the streets clean and does that. And it's a really hard thing to establish, because you have to get all the property owners to agree to it. And so, you look at these dirty streets, and it's because the city's not helping. They're not contributing towards that.
Okay, so the city doesn't do its own trash pickup anymore, right? That's all contracted in, right?
Well, it's contracted to Waste Management. The city, they're still in charge of the trash removal and pickup, but that, God, we could keep going on and on about all the issues. The trash stuff is like the Wild West out there. I mean,
right.
People dumping in dumpsters that they don't pay for, and who cleans up the trash when it overflows in your back alley, and that's a whole nother issue. There's a lot of issues, and I know the city, with the new city manager, they're starting to address these issues and figure out how to address these in the future. So I know that they know about these things, and they are, I'm hopeful, going to work on them this year, but you just don't know.
So your association and Main Streets Association are two totally different situations?
Yeah, so there's the Main Street Association, there's the State Street District Association, there's Carytown has an association, and Southview has an association, and they're all kind of in charge of their own areas.
Okay, so do you guys ever unify and have a co-op somewhere and say, let's get together and go against the city? I mean, or are you all you're all individual entities that are fighting against the city? I mean, how is that working? Because they can basically all play you guys against each other and then do nothing. And
yeah, so, I won't say we're all working against the city. We're all working with the city, right?
Well, I'm sorry.
To make Ann Arbor a better place. We're all working with the city. But no.
Right, pause on that. Views of Freeman Media and Shannon McFall are not the views of AJ and the Bivouac or the State Street Association. That is totally me. Not against the city, with the city. So
we work with the city, and we all do work with each other. We communicate a lot. All the directors of the different associations, they communicate a lot whenever there's issues, and they really try and get on the same page, before approaching city council about a proposed change or issue. And we do all work together and communicate with each other whenever we can. So there is a good relationship between the associations, but it's really sometimes just dependent on the issue, because sometimes one association might feel an issue is good for their association, and one might think it's bad. So it's really our job as the State Street District is to do what's best for our members and the businesses in our area of downtown. That's why we're there.
So the ideologies are somewhat similar then, or the needs are somewhat similar. It's more or less getting the ideologies to kind of, be a bit more cohesive, because I get that everybody's going to work out and protect their own area's interests. Like, I guess I would think that your needs are a tad bit different than Main Street, just based on the fact that you're closer to campus.
Yeah, I mean, closer to campus, that we have more shops versus restaurants. Main Street has a lot of restaurants. So
right, okay.
Outdoor seating and things of that nature maybe are a little bit more important than they are to us. But we do have restaurants, and so we want to make sure that their needs are met as well. I mean, things can be different just based on where we're located, and the type of businesses that are in our district.
Okay. And okay, so that all makes sense. I'm just trying to keep up because I take things really personal when I feel like the people who I know keep this town moving are getting broke off. I just have a problem with that. And I know that the central factor is city government because I don't know. I'm just so down on them. I gotta let some of the personal feelings that I have for Christopher Taylor and his cohorts and the things that they've done. I felt like they've been just so self-serving. Now, not every council member is really on my list. There are a few people that I feel like have more of that elitist nature, and they laud situations like that are happening that are pushing downtown businesses out, and they want that newbie to come in, that new star. Then there's the people that would probably be considered old fossils, and that's what I'm considered probably around here. But I want order. I just want order. I want people to be able to conduct their business the right way, do things the right way. The one thing that started me from stopping to go downtown was walking down Williams right before you get to Main and smelling that stench coming out of the alleyway where we used to walk from Williams all the way over to Liberty. And yeah, you're going to smell something because restaurants, I mean, I'm a restaurant guy, so I know you're going to, but the trash would literally be out in the alley. Now, I don't know if this was a time where there was some trash strikes, this, that, and the other, but I'm like, why does the back of this restaurant or the back of these restaurants smell like this? Now, you probably have the same type of situation, maybe not so much with the smell, but when you've got trash and all that types of stuff in your alleys and things like that, is that on you guys or is that on the people that are contracted in, the waste management people, like, you know, excessive trash? Because you've got people dumping, like you said, that don't pay for dumpsters. Like,
so this trash issue is I know it's a big initiative for the city this year, and this has been years and years in the making. I mean, I don't know, maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago, I don't know if you remember, the city commissioned a study to address the trash issue. They spent millions of dollars to bring all the business owners in a room and basically tell them all the things we've been telling them for years, and then nothing came of it. So now they're kind of revisiting it. But a lot of trash issues they've been better, but if the dumpster overflows, that's on the business owner or the business owners to clean it up. Now, if you have 5, 6, 10 different businesses on a trash can, everyone's going to say, oh, that's not my trash. That's not my trash. So then the trash sits there until someone calls the city. The city, in 3 years, I've never seen them write a ticket for trash on the ground, even though community standards are supposed to be enforcing that. They don't. So there's no enforcement on it by the city, but it is our, it's the business owner's responsibility, which is supposed to be enforced by the city. It's not. So right now I know for a fact that they have a person who is going around. They're doing a whole audit of every dumpster. They're seeing every business that's on it. They're making sure that the dumpsters are getting picked up enough, because that was another issue. You get a bunch of businesses, mixtures of restaurants and you only have pickups, maybe 3 times a week. That's not enough, but no one's there to tell them it's not enough because it's overflowing every day. So now the city's stepping in and saying, okay, you guys need to go to 6 days a week because you have this many businesses. And this is what they're trying to figure out is who's on every dumpster, how much should they be picked up? What happens if it's not picked up and there's trash on the ground? And these are the things we're trying to figure out. But that, I think, was part of the reason why there was so much trash on the ground in the alleys, years ago, and still a little bit today, but I know they're working on that one. That's a big one.
You guys are a 7-day operation downtown. There is no way, and this is just me and my meager experience of sanitation. If the trash isn't getting picked up at least 5 days a week, you're losing.
Yeah, I mean, my opinion was, because listen, you have some where they have a cart, they don't have a dumpster, or they have, a small dumpster. There's 2 retail businesses that don't have a lot of trash. It can be dependent on the businesses and the type of dumpster in your alley, but the city should be the ones enforcing that. They should say, if you have this many businesses or you have this many restaurants, or, because because they have a lot of trash. They should mandate how many days. There should be some kind of formula where you need to have this many pickups, and it shouldn't be a choice. Right now it's a choice. The business owners decide, okay, we only want to pay for 3 days, so we're paying for 3 days. That's it. We don't care if it overflows every day.
Who gets a choice on keeping their environment clean? Okay, so if you got Friday and Saturday, trash needs to be picked up on Sunday, simply because you had Friday and Saturday. Now, Monday and Tuesday might be light days, so maybe you pick up one of those 2 days, but no later than Wednesday. But you're damn near need to be Wednesday, Thursday. Trash needs to be picked up damn near daily. I mean, you might have a couple days where you might be able to, and I guess I don't understand, because I know this is all about an expense. They're trying to save money somewhere. Somebody's trying to save money somewhere, but it's causing a whole bunch of grief on the back end. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I mean it is, and yes, they're starting to do Sunday pickups now. That was a big thing because of, like you said, there's a ton of trash over the weekends, especially with restaurants. But I don't think it's a money thing, and I'll say it. I think it's laziness. I think it's laziness by the city and by the people in charge of the trash. They just don't want to deal with it. That's my opinion. Because I sat in the meetings when they did the audit, 4 or 5 years ago. We've gone over this. They know the issues. They know what needs to happen to get done. And to me, it does, like, they're charging the businesses for the extra pickups. So
there you go,
costing the city any extra money.
There you go. They're charging you. You're doing nothing.
The person in charge has to has to be the one to make sure that trash is getting picked up, and that there's enough pickups, and that the businesses are paying for the dumpsters that they're using. And if the new business comes into town, that they're not just coming in town and using whatever dumpster they see in their near vicinity, that they're actually mandated, okay, you're a new business. Hey, just so you know, you're going to need to, how are you going to remove your trash? Because here are your options. You can get your own cart. You can use this dumpster, but it's going to cost this and this. Which one do you want? Not just, okay, figure it all out and there's no enforcement.
Okay. All right. And I'm not going to keep you here all day because, dude, I wanted to talk, obviously, about this situation. And I know that you can't cure cancer. If it's happening to you, it's happening to other businesses. I think the first thing is the raising of police presence or some type of security presence. But, I mean, you started the conversation off just really kind of where I didn't think it was going to go. I didn't realize that Ann Arbor was having a problem retaining detectives. Now, I would have anticipated possibly patrolmen or whatever, but detectives, I'm not sure exactly who doesn't want a promotion anymore, or why they can't find good people to do detective work. Is there really that much crime in Ann Arbor to where our detectives are that flooded? I mean, I know Ypsi has 2 detectives,
right?
And if something happens in Ypsi, it's bad. They got 3 police officers and 2 detectives. I think they need to be taken over by the county and have those people deputized. And not that the sheriff department is any better, but stop wasting time with that. They don't even have a chief either. But where we are in Ann Arbor, even though I technically live in Ypsi right now, I'm in Pittsfield Township, my mindset, I just don't understand how Ann Arbor can be in this position and why nobody else is saying anything. I mean, you've got people that I swear to God, I mean, my grass is a half an inch lower. Or, I'm trying to think of something weird that happens that I know that if they go to the police will send a unit out to go investigate some stupid shit. But you've got multi-million-dollar businesses down here that can't get anything done, can't get any help with theft, with crime, with trash. I guess I'm wondering, what is the city expecting? I mean, people, what if you guys just stop paying? And I know this isn't going to happen, but what if the businesses just say, you know what, we're going to start throwing all of our tax revenue into an escrow? And what could the city do? You would obviously have to have it uniform to where everybody would have to do it. You couldn't have any holdouts. But I mean, until you got some act right from city government, what can you do uniform? I'm talking State Street, Main Street, everybody's association together. What could you do uniform to really make the city? This study shit don't work. I hate studies.
No,
I hate commissions. I hate studies.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, the study for the trash was pointless. But for me,
the study for the trash was trash.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, like the thing is I love Ann Arbor. I grew up here. I went to college at IU, but to get away for a couple of years. But I ultimately moved back here. I do love the city, and I don't want to get to a point where we're just always working against the city council and city. Like I want the city council to be aware of the issues, and I want them to work on fixing them. And that's the point I want to get, is that I want, if we can get enough business owners together, and I've talked to a lot privately about all these issues, and they're all on the same page about, but getting them together, really, working with the city to fix these issues. That's what I'm about. I don't want to get into like, well, we're just not going to pay this anymore. We're not, because I just don't feel like that really resolves anything, because, we'll get kicked out as I don't know. I'd rather go the route of working with the city council than working against them and working with the police department, because, the police department, while they are short staffed, they do a lot for us. I mean, we catch a lot of shoplifters because they send officers down immediately when things like this happen. And, sometimes it's faster than other times. So it does work. But you got to think, I mean, with what's been going on over these last 2 years, who wants to be a police officer? I mean,
right. I get it.
You're growing up and these are heroes and that was a real thing. People would go to school to become a police officer. And from what I've been hearing, they don't have many applications anymore. When they used to have hundreds of backlog applications, thousands of applications, they have tens of applications now, because the whole aura around the police in general have changed because of obviously all the stuff that's been going on in this country. And so, they're working on hiring people. I know they've been hiring more people, and, I think that, they kind of feel like their hands are tied too with like this, and they're hiring as many people as they can. They're promoting as many people as they can to detective. They only have a certain amount of budget for certain things, and they're working with what they have. And I think it's just back to really working with city council and making them understand, what's really important to the downtown and to the business owners down here. We've been doing that, and I don't have any personal vendettas against any city council members.
Right.
They've done some, when I've approached them about things, they've been well received, and they've worked with me and talked to me, and I've been appreciative of that. But there are definitely some really major ongoing issues that have to be fixed and remedied, and it can't keep going on year after year. So I'm hoping that this is the year that we really start tackling some of these things.
And that's fair enough on your side, because you do have to work directly with them. Someone that's an outsider looking in, peering in, glaring in, mean mugging in. I just feel like they can sit on their hands about things like this and not say anything just because they can. I'm not asking for businesses to turn their back on city government, the police department. The police department I actually empathize for, because I also feel this is a situation that I attack a lot. The Washtenaw County Sheriff's Department, Sheriff's Office, WCSO, I guess it is the Sheriff's Office. I felt like they had an opportunity when the current sheriff took over, when the 44th president took over, and there was a great time to push junior cadets, junior police officers, junior this, junior that, get into the schools. Any kid that was seeking a life in law enforcement, get them riding around. I remember kids doing ride-alongs with cops, and things like that back in the day. I've seen less and less of that since I've seen the head of our county become sheriff. Now, the main thing that I have a problem with, because the sheriff of this county goes to other territories and trains police agencies how to police and how to be better cops. But you don't even do that in your own county without charging them, even though you're already being paid a salary to be the sheriff. So I have a problem, because what you do is going to kind of be what Ann Arbor does, and what Ann Arbor does is going to kind of be what Ypsi does, and it's a chain reaction thing. The only department that I see acting really independently out here is the Saline Police Department. Now, I'm sure they follow the county guidelines and whatnot, but I've had friends that have worked for the Saline Police Department and have retired from the Saline Police Department. I just don't see where we've been proactive. Like you said, there were hundreds, probably thousands of people that wanted to work in Ann Arbor. Who wouldn't want to work in Ann Arbor? Not saying you got to be a Michigan football fan, but if you get that detail, I mean, that's a great day for you. Or, you know, if you get the detail of just patrolling that area. I mean, it wasn't a real high crime area. We've never had a real high crime area, but it's consistent crimes. I mean, you got a college campus, you've got a lot of shops, you got a lot of restaurants, you're going to have crime. You're going to have car thefts, break-ins, all that. You're going to have crime. But it ain't Detroit. It ain't Inkster. You know, it ain't Dearborn Heights. It ain't somewhere where you're going to be like, you know, when you kiss your kids in the morning, there's a good chance you're probably going to come back home. Unfortunately, there's territories where I know that people kiss their kids in the morning. They second guess what the hell they're doing. I get it. But we're in a position right now where we don't even have enough detectives, which possibly means we have a short of patrolmen, and we don't have a chief. We're going backwards, AJ. We're just going backwards. And you guys can't get the help you need on that end. They can't get the help. I don't know where the push is going to be. I think the top cop needs to change, hopefully sooner than the election comes up. But I think we need new blood there. But somebody has to start looking out for the interests of the everyday man. And I don't believe that who's in charge and what's been going on politically. I don't like the fact that the sheriff is really high up in the Michigan Democratic Party either. I don't like that because he's compromised. Let me just put it out here. Views of Friedman Media and Shannon McFall are not the views of AJ Davison. I believe he's compromised. I believe he's been compromised. And the fact that the Attorney General has not come in and just sat. I just need her to sit in this county and just see what goes on. They could probably just drive down the street and see everything of what it is, and it starts over here on Washtenaw Hogback. I just see that. Where you guys are, it's a more intimate problem. You have intimate issues, but it stems from Ann Arbor, and Ann Arbor stems from Washtenaw County. How is it going to get changed with more studies? What are they going to do? Studies of thefts and studies of, you know, flower beds. I mean, what do you study? What are you studying at this point? We got to make change. We got to turn shit around. And you're doing all you can because you're keeping your doors open. What are you for? 4 storefronts, 5 storefronts? How many blocks are you guys? I mean, how many buildings are you guys?
Well, we're 1 block, but I mean, we have 3 doors. I think we're technically 4 different buildings.
Okay.
Or storefronts, because we have the Nichols Arcade and then the 3.
Right.
There, but yeah, I mean, this is going to be a very interesting year, and it's going to really, I think, like, pave the way for what Ann Arbor is going to be like in the future. With, we were in the pandemic, we were off these pandemic years. Now is the police department going to get back to full staff? Like they're going that way. So this year is going to tell a lot of things. It's going to be very telling on what's going on. Are they going to deal with all these downtown issues that are going on? I mean, the hope is yes, and that things will slowly get back to normal. But it's scary because you just don't know. You're at this point where it's like, man, like these thefts keep happening the way they happen. Am I going to have to make these security changes that I don't want to make? Or, if these other things keep happening, like how do we keep the streets clean and the downtown beautiful? And so it's just, I don't know. I'm hopeful, but you know, it's only time will tell, I guess.
I just, you know, I don't know. It just takes you away from, because I think there's something magical about a person running a shop. You're not just looking through catalogs, and now it's not even catalogs, it's online mostly, I'm sure, and buying merchandise so you can bring it in and tag it and sell it. There's magic to be able to run a business for 50 years. It doesn't just happen. What your dad did, what your dad built, and it's been a family business all these years, that just doesn't happen. But when you're put into a play where instead of you figuring out how to reface this and move this over, you've got to come in and figure out which cables you're going to put on the coats and what security system you're going to do. I mean, when that becomes part of your day, more so than how do you get the best product for your customer base, it gets a little draining, bro. It gets really draining. And I think that hopefully that's not what takes you out, because I know you're young. You got way more energy than Pops had. I mean, he did it for 50 years and he's still strolling around the store, and he can't retire. I saw the semi-retirement on one of the things that I read. I love that, because I don't need him to sit down. Sitting down, you might as well lay down. So he needs to get up and he needs to have a purpose every single day. But for you, your new energy, it can't just be about security and trash and parking and stuff like that. You've got to still make it pop for your customer base that's been built up over a half a century. Now you're taking care of grandkids. If I'm 52, almost 53, I've got grandkids now. My kids have shopped at your store, and they're going to bring my grandkids to shop at that store. So that type of thing just doesn't happen. My kids don't even talk about going to the mall. Like, we went to the mall when we grew up. They don't talk about that type of stuff because Amazon or just online stuff. But shops like yours have survived all of that. So yeah, that's where I just feel like, you know, we need to protect jewels in our community. You know, you're doing good business, you're a jewel to me. Just because you've been around a long time doesn't mean you're a jewel. But if you're doing good business and you don't go from, and I had the one picture up of your dad. Hold on one quick second. You don't go from this, and that's 1971, to this. You know, I mean, yeah, we knew Nichols Arcade. We knew all the stuff dealing with Bivouac back in the day, but now you've got 4 doors. And that means a lot, because there's people that out here that can't afford, and it's not about you being able to just pay the rent, pay the mortgage, whatever, but there's people that can't afford 1 door on State Street. So what you've done over 50 years to be able to afford 4 doors needs to be helped. It needs to be supported by city government, by law enforcement, by everybody involved, you know. And that's pretty much all I've got there. I had no idea I was going to stretch you to 73 minutes. I really just wanted to just put this in the air about what happened, but I knew that there was so much more about you and a couple people that knew you personally. We're actually mutual Facebook friends with a couple people. You know, Larry Margolis, I grew up with him, and there was another gentleman, I forgot. But, you know, there's some people that we know mutually, and, you know, people just find people. But when I was sent your situation, I was like, I'm going to reach out. Let me just see if he'll hit back. This has just got to go. And then I had somebody, they asked me a question earlier. Do you think any former employees, or have you had any former employees recently who possibly could have, I don't know, you know, is there anybody you let go disgruntled that possibly could have, you know, said, hey, you guys can get in there and get this and it won't be an issue type of thing?
I mean, I'm not going to say it's not possible. It's very possible. I'd like to think that that's not the case.
Okay.
I can't think of anyone that even disgruntled or not would, you know, go that route or suggest that to anyone. So, you know, listen, I don't think so, but is it possible? Sure. I mean, you know,
how old are you, AJ? How old are you?
I'm 38.
Okay, you're 38. So I've got 15 calendars on you. So I guess my thing is this. I like your optimism there. I do. My problem is, like I said, since COVID, people are different. And I don't believe those coats got stolen because they were going to hand them out at the homeless shelter. I believe those coats got stolen based on the name brand, the quality, and they know they could get pennies on a dollar for them out in the street. If you're selling a coat for $1,000, that coat probably sold for $300 in the street. Maybe $5. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
if it's
you're not targeting the most expensive coats that we have in the store. You know, you're doing that for a reason, because you're trying to get the most resale value as you possibly can on those coats. And Canada Goose and North Face have probably the best resale value,
right,
from all the brands in my store.
So with that being said, someone had to know either via online, or they had cased your joint, or there was possibly a former employee that said, hey, back left corner is where he keeps these, and they're 8 to 1,000. Back right corner is where he keeps these, da-da-dee-da-da-da. I'm a crime show guy too. I'm a crime show guy. I'm a gangster movie guy. I see things a little bit different. I ain't really ever been a real thief. I mean, I used to steal candy from Stop and Go on Packard, but other than that, I've just never been an arch criminal. But I'm thinking like somebody would think if they knew that they could get in there, because I think it was about a dozen coats that they got on this one time.
Yeah.
So 3 to 4 coats per person, and you're talking $800 to $1,000 per coat. I mean, 12 grand. That's a quick hit for somebody.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I mean,
yeah. I mean, who knows? Like you said, I mean, every possible scenario has gone through my head about what could have happened and how they heard about the store, and all those things have crossed my mind. But I don't think it had anything to do with any former employees. Just because, even thinking back, like I don't know of any employees that were so disgruntled that have been let go in the past several years that were at the level that they would, try and do something like that. I can't. No one comes to mind of like,
okay,
oh yeah, they were really upset. Like,
okay,
I feel like people were let go. They know why they were let go. There was for a reason.
Right.
It's not like no one was blindsided or, I don't know. I just don't think it had to do with the former employees, but I think that there's a good chance that those people have been in the store before or had friends that were in the store before. They could have been related to the person who took a couple coats earlier in December and maybe told them about it. Because, you just don't know. There could be so many possibilities,
right,
and scenarios. And, there comes a point where I just don't want to, you can't think about it nonstop because it just drives you crazy. Because I take it personal that, they steal from the store. It's like, I feel like they're stealing from me personally. So I take it personal, but I try and, at the end of the day, you got to kind of just be like, hey, there's going to be theft. There's going to be loss. It's the cost of doing business. That's what my father always said, is that there's a cost of doing business. And that's sometimes what you have to chalk these things up to, and why you can, change your policies and do what you can do to try and prevent things like this in the future. At the end of the day,
I get it. And I appreciate you coming on today. I just don't want you to have to spend your days trying to figure out better security measures, and things like that. I mean, there's just so much more to what you have to do. And I'm just speaking from an entrepreneur's standpoint. I understand it, and the wisdom of your father, it's very true. It's the cost of doing business. But I also believe in an eye for an eye. And I'm telling you that if somebody does something like that, they have to be made an example of. And you kind of edged onto that earlier. And I'm going to be speaking more about that, because now that we've hit January 1st, I'm going to be speaking more publicly. I believe all around, I don't even think it's just in the county anymore. All around, crime is being prosecuted. And this is my term, not your term, but crime is being prosecuted at a real bitch level right now. And I'm not sure how people can assault people and rob from people and steal from people and walk the streets. I mean, a tether, house arrest, or, I guess I don't get it. I mean,
no,
you do something wrong, you got to go to jail. We can't just say.
I think something needs that, right? You got to be held accountable, and I think that the punishment does have to fit the crime, right? Like, you know, even
Sure.
if you come in and you steal a $10 water bottle from me, do I think you should be sitting in a prison cell somewhere? Absolutely not.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, but should you hit the 6-month probation, you know, the first offender program or whatever, where it's annoying, right? You're on probation, you got to report, you know, that's annoying. Is it going to affect the rest of your life? No. Is it going to ruin the rest of your life? No. But you're being held accountable for something like that. And you know, for something like this where it's $10,000, yeah, I think that's another level of theft. That's an organized ring. That could be some jail time. But, you know, so I think that there is some progressive prosecuting is warranted, but nope, it seems like just cases are being just flat out denied. No, we choose not to prosecute these things. And like I said, prosecute, yes, but the punishment, I don't think people should be in jail for certain things. I think certain things could be handled probation. You do your, you know, you follow the rules for a year, and you do good. You pay your fines, you pay your restitution, and you can go on with your life, and it won't affect the rest of your life. Now, if you keep doing it, that's another story. But
right,
everyone as a kid makes mistakes, right? I made mistakes. A lot of people I know made mistakes.
Sure.
And I don't want people's lives to be ruined over certain things. But yes, you got to be held accountable, and people are not being held accountable now. When you have cases from years ago that have still not even been addressed, people who've been stealing things, it's crazy to me. These people, you know, this girl, so this woman, that it's the most frustrating thing, because I think almost 2 years ago this happened, where this is one where we knew where she worked, we had her name. It still hasn't been prosecuted yet, hasn't even been turned over to a detective. This woman told me, I mean, she obviously mental health issues. She told me when I caught her stealing, she was allowed to steal from us because she has top secret security clearance, and she can steal from whoever she wants and she won't get in trouble. And I thought she was crazy when she said that at first, but now I'm starting to think maybe she was right, because she still hasn't been prosecuted.
Right.
So maybe there was something to it, because
you should have got her credentials, dude. She might have actually been some type of top level approved thief.
But if she's in my store filling up literal bags of merchandise in her bag, it's been years. She's probably going around all over Ann Arbor doing the same thing, especially if she has mental health issues and she thinks she's allowed to do this stuff. So it's just concerning that no one's getting held accountable. But yeah, and all right, I gotta run.
I appreciate it. No, I didn't want to push you this far. I thought that this was a scenario where it was easy to get in and out. Any progress on it, I'll continue to talk about. I mean, we just have to raise awareness to stuff like this. Frankly, I didn't know you were getting hit up like that. I know Ann Arbor is not as, clean as probably I talk it up. I think I'm speaking more in my past, but I didn't realize that it's become such a problem downtown. But now, after hearing the lack of presence, the lack of policing, the lack of bodies that Ann Arbor is dealing with, I get it. And I think that all starts with, city government, who I have no problem with attacking. That is not AJ saying that. That is Shannon. But just take care of your business. And I will lobby for somebody who steals a water bottle or some menial piece of merchandise from you to actually be put on trash detail, because that conviction could be their sentence, to have to be on trash detail. I'm an outside the box thinker, and the way, if you don't have the money to pay for it in the city, why aren't we using criminals to clean up the alleyways and clean up the sidewalks and plant new flowers in the flower beds? I'll give the city something. I'll throw them a bone, but I'll do whatever I need to do.
That's a great idea, actually. Thinking outside the box, creative thinking. Honestly, think about that. If you got caught stealing and you were a first-time offender, and they had crews, street crews of people like that who were going around for a couple months or a year or whatever, you were cleaning up the streets every week. Man, Ann Arbor would be spotless.
Spotless. I mean, and that's just me. And I'm going to give you that to take to the association.
That's a great idea.
I have no problem with speaking about it, because I don't feel jail is necessary for somebody who stole a water bottle or even a hoodie or something like that, because they're doing it for very selfish reasons. Well, you know what? We want you to pick up this fucking trash for very selfish reasons, because we want our city to be clean. So we'll figure that out. But I look forward to meeting you. I'm going to come down and make myself known to you. But I appreciate you. I appreciate your dad. Whatever you guys are going to continue to do, just keep it on the good end, because you've been here for all this time. We just hope we don't lose people like you because of all the chaos.
All right. Well, I appreciate you having me on, and yeah, it was good talking to you. And if you're downtown, you got to stop in and say hi.
I'll definitely bring my grandkids down. They rule my life now, so I'll be down there tiring them out. We'll grab some ice cream or something one day and just walk on in on you.
All right, sounds good.
All right, thanks a lot, AJ. Appreciate you, buddy. All right, bye-bye now. That was a good discussion. AJ is a good cat. I like cold meats. I didn't have a chance to speak with him off the grid when we talked in the back channel, just lining this up. But he's a good dude. His family are good people. We have to get to a position where we feel good about taking care of our businesses once again. And at one time, we had the police presence of Officer Blake and other people like that downtown taking care of the shop owners. But, if they don't have detectives to investigate the crimes that are happening on a daily basis, and they don't have the patrol personnel to be able to adequately, efficiently catch these people. I'm not looking for, high-speed chases in downtown area, but for 12 coats with, upwards of $12,000, that's a direct hit for AJ and his family. But for somebody else to go out and make probably 50% of that, yeah, that's a quick lick for them. But you know what? There's so many other ways for you to get a quick lick versus coming into a business like that and crippling them for inventory. You're not crippling them forever. You don't cripple a 50-year-old business forever by taking that type of inventory. Even though it's a get, it's not going to kill their business, but it disrupts their business, and it also deters other people from coming in their business. There were no guns. There were no stick-em-ups. There was no accosting. They just came in and grabbed merch and ran. But for that to happen, there's a ripple effect, and I can't talk about it every day, all day, but you got to bring things up like this to make notice of it. Probably 200 a coat. I get it. So 200 a coat, 12 coats, $2,400, 3 people. That's $800 a piece. Or somebody's getting a bigger cut. I don't know who's getting a bigger cut. Somebody's getting a bigger cut. Or were they who you thought they were, and they were the team? Or are they taking that back to somebody else, and somebody's just breaking them off for 12 coats, just breaking them off $1,800. Get out of here. And then they go sell them somewhere. I believe that situations like this are very calculated, and there's somebody on the other side that's possibly gaining or profiting more than those 3 individuals that walked in that store. And he said that they don't get hit like that every time, a couple items here, a couple items there. But I feel like this was planned. They just didn't pull up on Bivouac. I mean, look where they parked. They knew exactly what they were going to do. Or was there a driver? Was it those 3 and there a driver already in there? Or were they that brazen to leave their car outside, come in, grab the stuff, and go back out? It's just a really weird set of circumstances, and then when they did get blocked in, they drove up on the sidewalk, easily could have hit somebody. They hit the building, but they could have hit somebody, could have killed somebody. Now you're looking at vehicular homicide over a few coats that you were only going to make pennies on a dollar for. I mean, that type of hustle just don't make sense to me. I've just never understood that type of hustle. So it is what it is. Anybody that's tapped in from Facebook, appreciate you. I haven't done any searching on anything while I've been up. All the pages, Ypsilanti, Ann Arbor, all the pages have got the stream. Whether they'll put it up or not, it needs to be made known, because it happens in other territories as well. It's not just Ann Arbor. It's not just Ypsilanti, you know. And I want people to know, hey, it just obviously ain't Detroit. People think that, you know, Ann Arbor is one thing and Detroit's another. No, same things are happening on Woodward are happening on State Street. You know, State Street, Main Street, that is our Woodward. And the same thing that are happening right downtown in Detroit are happening in Ann Arbor. And there just needs to be stuff done about it. It needs to be something actually done about it. What? I don't know. City Council, the mayor, Ann Arbor Police Department, somebody's got to get a clue before businesses like that start uprooting. There's been plenty of businesses, 10, 20, 30-year businesses uprooted up out of Ann Arbor. Some longer, but you've got people that can hang on, you know, like the Davison family with Bivouac. You need to be taking care of those people and people that insulate them. Hell, if I had the revenue, I'd want a business along to where the Bivouac would be, where it is, because they generate traffic. I want to be where the traffic is. Location, 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 location. I would never, ever want to be in a place where there's no traffic. You know, you don't really create traffic. You don't create traffic. You've got, 60,000 college students, 70,000 college students, or whatever it is. That's instant traffic. Then you've got the population of downtown. Then you got the people that work in the city of downtown that don't even live in this area. I mean, you've got a ton of traffic already downtown. And why wouldn't you want to be close to a business like that? Which means, why wouldn't you want to protect a business like that? So I've got some other stuff that I want to say today, but I think I'm going to break the stream up. You know, we did this. We came in here and we cooked for about an hour and 27 minutes. I think I've been doing this by myself for the last few minutes. This was a good discussion. I hate my introductions. I've got to get better with my introductions. I really try not to sound like I'm Joe Announcer. And I just really wanted AJ to cook as far as the theft thing went, but there was so much more to him. I love the fact that, you know, he's the president of the Downtown Association for State Street. That's beautiful. He's entrenched in it on both sides. So he sees it from both angles. But, you know, for me, it lets me know he's connected more than just his business. He's not just down there just for the Bivouac. He said he loves this town. He went to school here. You know, he defected and went to IU. We get that. But that was probably more or less just to get away from the town for a quick minute. And then he came back, and now he's running his family's business. That's a beautiful thing. And we've got to be able to protect that. We have to be able to protect that as a village. So, yeah, I think I'm going to break it up. I'll take a little break here now. I'm going to grab my granddaughter here in a little bit. Yeah, let's do that. But I appreciate anybody that's going to check this out, or that has checked this out on the live. Anybody that's checked it out on the replay. I'm going to figure out how we'll do I'm going to look back at the introduction. I mangle them. I mangle introductions all the time. I got to get better at that. Like I said, I just don't want to come off as some type of wannabe announcer, because I am an announcer, but I don't make a living at introducing people. I guess I need my own Ed McMahon, because I'm really not that guy. You know, I'm going to bring you on based on the fact that you've got some substance. I'm not going to bring you on based on the fact that it makes me look good. He absolutely is a beneficiary, and he's blessed with generational wealth. And that needs to continue for when he has children and they have children. And it might not be in the State Street Association. Bivouac might move somewhere else, but that business needs to stay where it's at. And that's running. So y'all be good. We'll talk. We'll kick it again. I'm sure I'll be back up later. I don't know exactly how my evening's going to play out. I got a couple things I got to get done. But the main thing for me is just making sure that we take care of our people. And if we take care of our people can continue to take care of us. I appreciate y'all. And as always, just be yourselves, because you can't be nobody else. Nobody else.
You know, this revolution is filled with so many ironies, Billy. First, you know, it's manly to keep your word, right? If you are a man, you keep your word. And now all of the black people in this country are demanding, and even the black people in the whole world are demanding, is that you keep your word. You told us we were free. Well, then show us that we're free. You told us that there is justice, equality for all in this country. Well, then stick to your word and let us see the justice and equality for all. Or else admit to us that you're not a man, you're a bird, you're afraid of us, you're afraid to give us equal stand. You're afraid that if you give us equal ground, that we will match you and we will override you.